Yeah, I come out that window right there, swam out that run. That's my place there. I swam out that window to the interstate down there. I stayed in there 3 days without water, food and water. I stayed on the interstate another 3 days. I stayed in the Astrodome another 3 days. Went to Natchez, Mississippi, and just decided it was time to come home and fight for my own neighborhood. So I just got back, and you know, I'm dedicated, even though I grew up in this neighborhood since I was 7 years old. Even though I don't live in the development, I had daycare and other social services there. I think people have a right to safe, decent, and sanitary housing, and these fences are vulgar, besides being illegal. And public housing is the best case scenario for repopulating the city, because they're in better shape than the private stock. So we're coming back, and we're going to fight until this whole development is full of people again. One of our comrades and co-neighbors from Iberville is having a big problem. She'd like to make a brief statement to us before we go. So, Ms. Guichard?
Yes, I'm Ms. Guichard. You saw me on TV last week.
Yeah, I did.
All right. They want to remove us from the Iberville over into the Fisher. Their excuse is the mud is contaminated. That's mud they brought in there, not us.
All right.
In other words, the whole city is contaminated.
That's
We
right.
none should be here.
That's right.
And I'm not going. I'm too old for this constantly moving boat.
That's right.
We're going to have to do better than that.
Yes.
Instead, they sent us out 3 more letters, giving them the right to get away with removing anything that belongs to us, your personal property. And you can't sue them if you sign that piece of paper. So I'm not signing it.
That's right.
Okay, thank you very much. This is not an event, this is a process. And it's not just St. Bernard, it's the right of the people to safe, decent, and sanitary housing in the city of New Orleans and the country, for real. Now look, this is what we're looking at today. As you know, I like to make 2 quotes to get this started. When I was in Baton Rouge, Representative Congressman Richard Baker was quoted in the Baton Rouge Advocate by a New Yorker reporter as saying we could not get rid of public housing in New Orleans, so God did it for us.
That's right.
Now, Alphonse Jackson, the head man at HUD, said New Orleans will never be a majority black city again because black people are poor and they don't have any reason to come back. Of course, if we don't have any housing, we can't come back. We have politicians who want to use us as a beating bat for everybody else. They want you not to come back unless you get a job, but without a house you can't get a job. So that's basically saying we don't want y'all back. Oliver Thomas said, if you're not willing to work, don't come back to New Orleans. I say, if you're not willing to fight, don't come back to New Orleans. Everybody who lived in St. Bernard pre-Katrina had a legal lease. Nobody has gone to First City Court and gave you notice of eviction.
Right.
You have not gone before a judge who has told you to vacate. You have not got a constable's order on your door telling you to leave. There has been no legal processes started against you. Therefore, each and every person who had a lease prior to Katrina has a legal lease now.
Yes.
Therefore, you have a legal right to go into your dwelling unit right now. You don't need no permission. You don't need to sign no list. You don't have to ask no person.
If you're going in, we have lawyers here, we have people contacted and all that who are ready in case the housing authority and the police department decide to start arresting people. They should give you notice to be able to leave at that point. If you want to leave, you leave. Even though it seems to us that the law is on your side, there still may be consequences. Understand that this is still a fight. And so this is a step in that fight. So I don't want anybody to be mistaken that if there's not a fight. There's a fight ahead of us. There are people, there are allies here who are here to be with you in that fight, but that is a fight that's coming up. I think what's going on right now, you remember I was trapped here. Many of you were trapped here. I stayed here 5 days in a hospital. When I came out, all the people, anybody want to talk about, they seen on TV was looting. And I said, well, looting, I didn't see any looting. I saw people going to get food. I saw people going to get water and that sort of stuff. But look at this. You know, talk about looting. They've stolen thousands of homes from people in the city of New Orleans. They stole these little trailers cost $60,000 of taxpayer money, and they stand in front of a house that if you gave those people $60,000, they could fix it up themselves, right? So that is looting to me, right there. What's
Whose streets? Our city. Whose city? Our city. Whose city? Our city. Whose city? Our city. Whose city? Our city.
We'll go through that open gate, go down to the heart of the development is Ford Park, where our sign is at, and we'll move in from there. All right?
Fired up, we ain't taking no more.
Yeah.
We're fired up.
We ain't taking no more.
What do we want? Our home. What do we want? What do we want?
Excuse me, miss. Excuse me.
We want
justice. We want justice. Let them in. Let them in. The people can enter. This is the people's homes. No to ethnic and clan cleansing. The people are taking back their communities.
We going home. Come on, warriors. Come on, St. Bernard warriors.
But they don't just march in like this. They don't run over me like that.
Let the people in.
Let the people in. Let the people in. Let the people in.
Let the people in.
Let the people in. Let the people in. Let them in. Let them in. Let them in. Let them in.
Don't touch me now. Don't touch me. Ain't nobody put your own head out, huh? I bet nobody put your mama on. Don't leave us out here by I didn't touch I'm trying to get these people out.
You want everybody out.
Can't stop us from coming in here. Come on in here.
I got to come in.
Y'all want to be on the condominiums. That's all that's about.
You have your old ID?
No, I don't have that. I got you know.
Did the handle representatives go and talk to them? They might just go ahead and let you in.
Mr. Johnson, I just have a question from human being to human being. If somebody technically stopped you from going into your dwelling place,
listen to me though. Listen to me though.
Communication is everything.
If I got to die, let me die in New Orleans.
Yes. It's a home.
This is my home. They don't want to hear it, but they don't have to hear it. Because they see that man above, gonna take care of all of them.
They're telling us that there's no power, there's mold, and it's inhabitable right now.
When I went to my apartment, let me tell you, when I went to my apartment, I came back the first time, I had water in my house. Okay, I left. I came back a second time. When I came back a second time, my door was kicked open. I didn't have done any of that. But you know what I did? I still laid there and cleaned my apartment out. But our apartment gonna have mildew and mold if they got it all boarded up and no air not going in there. It's gonna have mildew and mold. It's gonna come from the first floor and it's gonna go all the way up to the second floor and it's gonna go all the way up and up and up. But
so,
if they...
So you ready to live in that and you ready to live without power? I'm just asking.
Let me tell you. I'ma do what I have to do to survive. If they don't have no power, if you put enough people back in the St. Bernard project, believe one thing, they ain't gonna have no choice but to put power on there. I've been here for 14 years. I raised 2 children in the St. Bernard project. I have a son that resides in Dallas. I have a daughter that go to LSU, second year in LSU, and going to be a pediatrician. They got doctors, lawyers, nurses, mayor, councilmen, senators, everything that came from the project. So they're not no better than what we are. We're not trying to make no scene. We're not trying to cause no conflict or none of that. We're just trying to do what we have to do to get back into our home. They waited till everybody came in our houses, then stole everything we had in our house. Then they decide to board it up. Then they come back, we come back again, they got the fences up. Now they're gonna tell you can't come in here because you're trespassing or whatever. I feel like this. If we can handle our money before the storm, all they have to do is let us back in and we continue on paying our rent. When the storm came, everybody in the St. Bernard Housing Development led there and rescued and saved everybody. So all we want to do is rescue and help our tenants clean out their apartments. Once we help our tenants clean out their apartment, we'll go down to the first floor apartment that had the most damage, help that person clean out their apartment and clean our neighborhood up, and we'll be all right.
I'm helping whoever needs some help.
Feet come out.
Yeah. Friends that live here? Yes, a lot of people I know that live here. I'm on the front gate. Anybody need help, just come to me and I'll help them. Okay. I'll give them suits and masks and glasses, whatever they need. Yeah.
This is wrong. Oh, Jesus. What they did to us.
Come on, y'all.
Oh yeah, this one my uncle's dog was at. We don't see no signs of him.
It's your apartment?
No.
No,
that's because of the hurricane. He couldn't get on the helicopter with us for the hurricane, so we put him in this abandoned house.
Oh. You gave him food and water, huh?
He didn't get no more water though, because that was his last time to water, so he had to be dead. He's dead in here. Wanna go look for him? Wanna go look for him? Wanna go look for him?
So anybody that wants to go to Gloria, let's go down this way, down the sidewalk.
We had to leave bags of money on the interstate. We couldn't take nothing on the helicopter. Real money. Ask him. He the one got the blame for it.
Why they wouldn't let y'all take none?
I slept on the interstate for 3 days in total darkness with guns, dogs, and violent people.
Right. And that was just a National Guard.
National Guard is worse than the violent people.
I know.
They the ones ended up molesting children and raping people and stuff.
That was the National Guard?
I wouldn't say it was a National Guard, just military folk.
Right.
There's no reason why these people shouldn't be allowed to come back in their comfort zone. That's why everybody panicking. Everybody's outside of their comfort zone. What they gonna do? Ooh, it stinks.
For a lot of people, it's just, I mean, for one, you know, when you've been marginalized, you know, for generations, you know, the kind of confidence and will that it would take, you know, to come, you know, to do something like this, it takes a lot to build that up in people again. Even though this is, you know, St. Bernard was always a strong and a fighting community, but you know, just you know, to be able to get folks back to do that, and then just in terms of finances, for a lot of people, it was, you know, they just couldn't afford to come back. Who's going to pay the gas to be able to get them to come back? You know, and many other people have been coming back here and there, but again, with the fences around, you know.
All right, bro. Oh, shit, I'm sorry. Thank you, brother. All right, no problem. All right.
I got a simple battery and a criminal trespass on ain't no property. But I got a new battery.
So when do you have to go? All right.
13th.
That's not bad.
Was that simple battery with the wheelchair?
Yeah, you rolled over Officer Doucette's foot.
With the wheelchair?
Yeah, Gloria did.
Section 8.
Municipal Court, Section 8, yeah. On the 13th.
Again, here I go again, Bill. I'm glad I got you with me, buddy. Instead of looking at the whole big picture of opening up all these units, suppose you got 150 people right now say, look, I'd like to get back in my unit. Why don't you prorate it in increments?
Right.
Whereas you wouldn't try to open up the whole big
facility.
development.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you get down to reasonable numbers. Because say, for instance, they're paying everybody who live in Houston $900 a month rent. Every month. $900 a month. Then they got the utility bills. And so, I mean, if you was to prorate what they paying to keep people out,
yeah, it's just cheaper to bring them back.
It's cheaper to bring them back.
Well, today was, you know, essentially people said they were sick and tired of waiting around. They were just going to take matters into their own hands, and they were coming home.
You know, some people argue that public housing in New Orleans was not good before the hurricane. It's an opportunity to basically wipe the slate clean and build something that's really nice for people who do need public assistance. What's wrong with taking a break?
I'm gonna look for him?
Taking a break in different uses for this land and for these apartments.
I think the people who live in public housing are really the same type of people who live in Lakeview, live in Gentilly, live in New Orleans East, every place. People who make a person-by-person decision whether they want to come home, and they don't want somebody else making that decision for them. The people in Lakeview don't want the people in New Orleans East deciding whether they're going to come back or not. People in New Orleans East don't want the people in Gentilly. These are the people of this neighborhood. Some of them have lived here for years and years.
But the difference between Lakeview and uptown New Orleans East is that this is a federal agency basically in charge of these units here on taxpayer dime.
Well, all the more reasons. I mean, you know, this is we as taxpayers, all of us have an interest in making sure that the taxpayer money is well spent. And then we have these here 1,300 apartments that are vacant while there are people who are begging for a decent place to stay. So I think it's in the interest of the community. To the extent that they want to renovate or fix it up, fine, take a section, fix that up. But use some of the housing that's all around us that's, you know, just open and ready for people to be back in.
I'm gonna look for him?
This is affordable housing that's here right now. And the poor people, the African American people, the residents, the working poor who live in these developments, and predominantly people who are working, unlike some people who say, you know, they're just sitting home and watching soap operas. These are people who are working and helping keep New Orleans together. There's cashiers, sitters, cleaners, bedroom people, people in the tourist industry that need to have an opportunity to be able to come back. And we shouldn't let the federal government or the state government or the local government tell people that they can't come back to their own houses. They have legal leases. They have the right to come home. They have a legal right to come home, and the government is trying to deny them that right. People deserve the right to come home. They have the legal right to come home, and the government ought to welcome them home rather than put up fences to keep them out.
That'll be fine. All right.
You're here to take it down, right?
I'm putting it up.
Okay, just checking.
What's the deal?
You sure you don't want to take it down?
No, man. I'm gonna be finished after this gate.
If I don't come back, they have my contact info. I'm a little nervous.
Being on that bridge in August, late August, for 3 days, day and night, 97 degrees, no shade. It was terrible. No water, no food. Got to the Astrodome like the 7th day after the hurricane, and I met a lot of my neighborhood people, and we kind of started talking about what we were going to do when we got back here. Kind of made some pacts to come back and fight, and it started uplifting my spirits right then when I met my people. That was the great thing, and I think this is, even though it's 7 months later, it took us a long time just to get to survive and put our life to the point where we even could come back. But now most of us are coming back, and this is the culmination of the pact we made on the bridge and in the Astrodome.
Are you back to stay now, or are you going to make sure?
There's my trailer right there.
You got your fingerprint.
That's my favorite trailer. I'm here. I started in September. I just got it. So I'm here, you know. I'm here. One for myself, one for my daughter who's in college, and we in it to win it to the end.
Any advice to people who haven't gotten the FEMA trailer yet? How'd you do?
Well, Yeah. Be persistent and be arrogant and be angry. Just make these people understand that you're feeling pain and you're gonna make them feel your pain, because these people are callous. They don't really feel anything. It's just a job to them. And if you don't make yourself a example of somebody they want to leave them alone, you might never get a trailer. And that's everything with FEMA. Nice to meet you.
Almost hit me. The fence was going this way, and like some weird was holding it, and he was like, I guess I just dropped it.
If I got to die, let me die in New Orleans.
Yeah. Wanna go look for him?
Wait. Miss Geisha?
Yes, I'm Ms. Gishard. You saw me on TV last week.
Yeah, I did.
All right. They want to remove us from the Iberville over into the Fisher. Their excuse is the mud is contaminated. That's mud they brought in there, not us.
All right.
In other words, the whole city is contaminated.
That's
We
right.
none should be here.
That's right.
And I'm not going. I'm too old for this constantly moving boat.
That's right.
We're going to have to do better than that.
Yes.
Instead, they sent us out 3 months.
Yeah, I come out that window right there, swam out that run. That's my place there. I swam out that window to the interstate down there. I stayed in there 3 days without water, food and water. I stayed on the interstate another 3 days. I stayed in the Astrodome another 3 days. Went to Natchez, Mississippi, and just decided it was time to come home and fight for my own neighborhood. So I just got back, and you know, I'm dedicated, even though I grew up in this neighborhood since I was 7 years old, even though I don't live in the development. When I was in Baton Rouge, Representative Congressman Richard Baker was quoted in the Baton Rouge Advocate by a New Yorker reporter as saying, we could not get rid of public housing in New Orleans, so God did it for us.
That's right.
Now, Alphonse Jackson, the head man at HUD, said New Orleans will never be a majority black city again because black people are poor and they don't have any reason to come back. I had daycare and other social services there. I think people have a right to safe, decent, and sanitary housing, and these fences are vulgar, besides being illegal. And public housing is the best case scenario for repopulating the city because they're in better shape than the private stock. So we're coming back and we're going to fight until this whole development is full of people again. One of our comrades and co-neighbors from Iberville is having a big problem. She'd like to make a brief statement to us before we go. So
more letters giving them the right to get away with removing anything that belongs to us, your personal property. And you can't sue them if you sign that piece of paper. So I'm not signing it.
That's right.
Okay, thank you very much. This is not an event, this is a process. And it's not just St. Bernard, it's the right of the people to safe, decent, and sanitary housing in the city of New Orleans and the country for real. Now look, this is what we're looking at today. As you know, I like to make 2 quotes to get this started.